Hello everyone, welcome to sqadia.com, and today our lecture topic is the brain, and we are on the third section of this lecture, that is we'll be discussing the midbrain. What we'll be discussing in this will be the gross appearance of the midbrain and some view of the anatomies and when we are taking the transverse sections of the midbrain. What are the structures which are present in the midbrain and how the oculomotor nerve originates and the trochlear nerve originates at which level, and what are the different functions of the midbrain. The midbrain measures about 0.1 inch or 2 centimeter length and connects the pons and the cerebellum with the forebrain. So actually it's a very small part, and if you just for the purpose of understanding it's actually specifically highlighted, otherwise it's all connected in one form. The midbrain is traversed by a narrow channel called the cerebral aqueduct, which is filled with the cerebral spinal fluid, and cerebral aqueduct forms one part of the third ventricle. On the posterior surface there are four colliculi. What are these colliculi? These are actually the elevations. They're ball-like structures called as corpora quadrigemia. They are rounded eminences that are divided into superior and inferior colliculi. There are two superior and two inferior colliculi, which is divided into four by one vertical and one horizontal slit. The superior colliculi are the centers for visual reflexes, and the inferior colliculi are the lower auditory centers. On the lateral aspect of the midbrain, the superior and inferior brachii ascend in an anterior lateral direction. The superior brachium passes from superior colliculus to the lateral geniculate body and the optic tract, and that is why superior actually colliculi have connection to the optic tract, so they are mainly concerned with the visual reflexes. Then there's an inferior brachium, which is the fibers actually arising from the inferior colliculi, which connects the inferior colliculus to the middle geniculate body, which has a role in the auditory centers and reflexes as well. On the anterior aspect of the midbrain, there is a deep depression in the midline, the interpeduncular fossa, which is bounded on anterior side by the crus cerebri. The oculomotor nerve emerges from the groove of the medial side of the crus cerebri and pass forward into the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus. Now remember, if we we are viewing it from anteriorly and posteriorly, then there is a cross structure. But if we get cross sections of the midbrain, there will be two cross sections which can be taken, one at the level of the superior colliculus and other at the level of inferior colliculus. This is the diagram which is actually showing the cross appearance. This has been taken in such a way that first the cerebral hemispheres have been cut horizontally and then split vertically as well. So you can appreciate this is a very small part. Now this is all medulla oblongata posterior view, and this ascends to form. This is the pons, which is where you can see the facial colliculi and vestibular eminences. Then very small part is actually formed by the midbrain. And this you can appreciate the trochlear nerve is actually originating. There's a nuclei at the level of inferior colliculus. This is the trochlear nerve which emerges and moves decussates towards the opposite side. Then at the level of the superior colliculus, oculomotor nerve, which is the nerve which emerges and actually goes towards the opposite side. Now this is the cross structure. This is schematic diagram which is showing a more view for better appreciation. You can appreciate this is the cerebral peduncles. They can be divided into inferior, which connects with the medulla oblongata, middle, which connects pons, and superior, which connects the cerebellum towards the midbrain. Now these are the four eminences. These two are the superior colliculus, these two are the inferior colliculus, which are divided by one horizontal and one vertical slit. On the pineal gland and thalamus and epithalamus, these are all part from the diencephalon. Now if you can appreciate over, there is no clear cut distinction that midbrain ends here and then the forebrain starts. Actually it's very complex structure, and for the purpose of understanding, as soon as one structure ends, the suddenly this other structure starts. At the level of inferior colliculus, again in this diagram you can appreciate origin of the trochlear nerve. Well, these are the inferior colliculus, and this which connected with the inferior brachium, and from inferior brachium is connected to the auditory reflexes, while superior colliculus is connected to the superior brachium, and from there it is connected to the visual reflexes. Now this is the transverse section. which actually shows when the midbrain is being cut at the two different levels, that is the level of inferior colliculus and superior colliculus. First, I will be going through the inferior colliculus because we are ascending upward. We have done the hindbrain, then midbrain, and now we will moving towards the forebrain. So at the level of inferior colliculus, this is the inferior colliculus, and we can appreciate the trochlear nerve emerges from the trochlear nuclei and goes towards the opposite side. There is a medial longitudinal fasciculus which is present, and at the level of inferior colliculus there is a decussation of superior cerebellar peduncles. Superior cerebellar peduncle actually connects midbrain with the cerebellum, and there are fibers which are coming from the cerebellum and going towards the opposite side are decussate over here. Then this is the cerebellar peduncles, and this is substantia nigra which has also a role in this. When we view the same midbrain at the level of superior colliculus, we appreciate this kind of structure, that there is a oculomotor nucleus which is and the origin of oculomotor nerve which crosses and goes towards the same side, not towards the opposite side. There is also a major important structure called as the red nucleus, which actually has a role in a rubrospinal tract formation. That these nuclei which are present over here, they form a rubrospinal tract. That the neuron, the axons actually descend down into the spinal cord to form the rubrospinal tract. There is a middle geniculate body as well as middle meniscus present also at this level. In this section, we have briefly discussed an overview of the midbrain. We have discussed what are the different structures which are present in what are the role of superior colliculus and inferior colliculus, how the origin of trochlear and oculomotor nerve occurs, and at what level actually these two nerves originate. For further information, keep watching sqadia.com. Thank you very much.